Okay, class, picking up where we left off at, we found that 1/5 of Facebook users actually purchased something on Facebook based upon a Facebook ad. So they want us to write this as a percent. So we would take 1 divided by 5, and that gives us 0.2 written as a percent. We know we will move this decimal 2 places to the right. So we add 0.2, move this decimal 2 places to the right, and our final answer would be 20%. So B would be our final answer. Now we come here to 2D. The directions, the instructions, justify all answers with mathematical work or written explanations. In 2010, the U.S. population was 309.9 million, and there were 128,900,000 American Facebook accounts. What percentage of Americans have Facebook accounts? Round to the nearest tenth of a percent. So we know that it's 128,900,000 Americans with Facebook accounts. So that would be our numerator. Our denominator, we have 309.9 million. We could write that out in expanded form, which is 309,900,000. Now, what we would need to do is this here. Like I said before, for those of you that do not have a calculator that can write this long of a number, or you're able to type in this long of a number, you notice that both of these numbers end in 5 zeros. We could simplify out the 5 zeros. So then we could take 1,289 divided by 3,099. And that would give us 0.415 and so on. But it tells us here round to the nearest tenth of a percent. Now, what we would need to do first before we round to the tenth of a percent is to round to 3 decimal places. So if we round to 3 decimal places, we look at the 4th place and see whether or not this number is from 5 to 9, which it is. So that means we round the 3rd decimal place. So we add 0.416. So this would be this decimal rounded. Now, to write our answer to a tenth of a percent, we'll move this decimal 2 places to the right. So our final answer would be 41.6%, which is C. Now, we scroll on down here to number 2. It says here approximately 1/3 of all Facebook accounts are owned by someone under the age of 25. How many Facebook users are under 25? Right answer in scientific notation. Now, it says here that 1/3 of all Facebook accounts are owned by someone under the age of 25. Now, what we're going to do, even though it's not stated here, we're going to go on the premise that we're talking about American users. So it's 1/3 of all American users. And we know American users are 128,900,000, as stated in a previous problem here. Let's go back and it tells us the American users were 128,900,000. Now we can put this over 1. Now we can multiply this out. We know 1/3 will give us this number here, and we will multiply by 128,900,000. And that will give us approximately this number here. We'll round to the nearest whole number. So this will give us 429,666. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so now this actually gives us 42,966,667. Now, what we have to do next is this here. We want to write this in scientific notation. So what we would do is we have our decimal here. We'll move to the left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 places. So first of all, we know we're going to have 4.29. And if you notice here, it only went to 3 decimal places. So we know we're going to round up this 6 to 7. So it'd be 4.297 times 10. And remember, we moved this decimal 7 places to the left. So it'd be times 10 to the 7th power. So our final answer would be A. Now, we move on down to lesson 3A. Now it states here, justify all answers with mathematical work or written explanations. Which of the following headlines contain quantitative information? Now, you know quantitative information typically includes numbers. It says here, social media make us more honest. Users not happy with new Facebook changes. So A and B has nothing to do with any type of quantitative data. There's no numbers involved here. Now C, 73% of U.S. adults use social networks. And D, all social networking sites good for our society. So we know our final answer will have to be C, because this is something we can quantify. Okay, now, we look here at lesson 3CD. It also has the same instructions, justify all answers with mathematical work or written explanations. So we have number 1 here. It says, you read an article that says 61% of mobile internet users are on their devices while watching TV. Which of the following does not provide a good estimate of this number? Okay, we look here at 3 out of 5. Now we know 3 out of 5 really means 3/5, which we could put in a calculator, which is 0.6, which is about 0.6. We move the decimal 2 places to the right, so that's 60%. So we know that's close to 61%. It says a little less than 1/2. Now we know 1/2 is 0.5. A little less than that is less than 0.5, which is significantly lower than 61%. Now 6 out of 10 is still 60%. 6 out of 10 is 6 divided by 10, which is 0.6, which is 60%. And it says here a little less than 2/3. So we know 2/3 is 2 divided by 3. So we could type that in our calculator. And 61%, we know this to be about 67%. 61% is a little less than 2/3. So the answer would be B, a little less than 1/2. That's the one that does not provide a good estimate of this number. Now we go here to number 2. Number 2, it says you see an article comparing the graduation rates of 2 high schools. Awesome Sauce Academy graduated 458 seniors, while Sometimes Swell High School graduated only 298. You know, however, Sometimes Swell has only 300 seniors, while Awesome Sauce has 500. Which high school has the higher graduation rate? So what we would have to do is find their percentage. So let's first go with Awesome Sauce. We have 458 out of 500 seniors that graduated. And then with Swell High School, we have Sometimes Swell High School, we have 298 out of 300 seniors. Now we could put this in our calculator. 458 divided by 500 is approximately, well, it is not approximately, 91.6%. And then we will have the Sometimes Swell High School, which is 298 divided by 300, which is approximately 99.3%. So we know Sometimes Swell has the higher graduation rate. Now we come here to 3. It says, in which of the following circumstances is it important to calculate instead of estimate? It says creating a budget, calculating tip on a restaurant bill, calculating taxes owed on a purchase, or setting a savings goal. Okay, now let's take a look at each one of these individually. Creating a budget. If you estimate a little bit basically, you know, if you reach that estimation, you will be very close to your budget. So that really wouldn't harm you too much. But then we come to B, calculating tip on a restaurant bill. If you estimate the tip on a restaurant bill, you may go a little lower, a little higher, but it still wouldn't hurt you that much. So we come here to C, calculating taxes owed on a purchase. Now, if you estimating you're under, then you can go through the embarrassment of not being able to afford whatever item you are trying to purchase. So with C, doing the estimate, it could hurt you. Then setting a savings goal is basically like A and B. If you go a little over or under, it really wouldn't hurt you that much. So the answer would be C. Now we come here to 4. It says, you read a headline that 1 out of 5 people in the world will log onto a social network. Since there are about 7 billion people in the world, how many are logging on? So 1 out of 5 means 1/5. Then they say there are 7 billion people in the world. So we will have our 7 with 9 zeros. Okay, so now we have 1/5 times 7 billion. Now, this is what we would do. We could put this in our calculator. 1 divided by 5, that gives us 0.2, and we'll multiply by 7 billion. So that would be 3, 6. So we should have 9 zeros. So that would give us approximately 1 billion. Well, it should give us exactly 1,400,000,000. So it'll be about 1.4 billion. Okay, now we're about to scroll down to 4A. 4A says justify all answers with mathematical work or written explanations. Which of these expressions is not a way to calculate 25% of 9,100? So the word of we know means multiplication. So 25% we know we could rewrite it as a decimal. So it'd be 0.25. 9,100 times 0.25 would be a good way of estimating this. Now, the next thing, we have 9,100 divided by 4. Now, 9,100 divided by 4, we can test that by first seeing if the answer matches up with A, since we've already determined that A was a good way of calculating this. So it'll be 22,275. Okay, so now 9,100 divided by 4 will give us the same answer. So B is also good. Now, C is supposed to be 9,100 times 2/5. So we would take 2 divided by 5 first, and that'll give us 0.4. We know 0.4 is 40%, so our answer here would be C. C would be the value that's incorrect, but we also need to check D out. So we have 9,100 times 25. And then we will divide that by 100. And that will give us 2275. So C is the final answer. Now, it says consider the recommended budget below. Now, if you look here, we have our budget and a pie chart with the different percentages. It says if a person is earning $34,923 per year, approximately how much should they be saving, including retirement and other savings? So we look here, retirement is 10%, other savings is 10%. So we know that that would give us 20% between the two savings vehicles here. So we would take that 20% and multiply by the $34,923. So that'll give us 0.20 times $34,923. So we got 0.20 times $34,923. And that will give us $6,984.60. So we are going to approximate. So our answer would be D, which would be 7,000, which is a good approximation.